Pause for a moment, because what you're about to discover will turn upside down everything you believed about married men and love. For years, advice has told you to act mysterious, to follow clever rules, to play games that promise control, but end in confusion. The reality is not what you've been taught. It's far deeper and more unsettling. Psychology and human biology have already mapped out patterns that reach further than charm, sweet talk, or the surface gestures you've been trained to notice. This truth may feel challenging at first because it demands that you release the illusions that shaped how you measure love. Most women are taught to wait for clear declarations, to chase after attention, to look only at what can be spoken aloud. But the real signs are not obvious. They are primal cues, stronger than words, signals hidden in his body, his emotions, and his unconscious reactions. You won't find them in dating tips, not in friendly advice, and not in the usual games men play. They are written in his nervous system, revealing a truth he cannot disguise, even from himself. The gaze he cannot control. There are signals a man may try to hide, but his body ends up revealing them anyway. Among all of these signals, the gaze is the most difficult to control. Words can be measured, gestures can be calculated, but the eyes respond on their own, without asking permission from reason. When a married man feels something he cannot admit, his gaze becomes the silent proof of that inner conflict. This is not about polite eye contact during a normal conversation. The gaze of someone who feels more than he should has a different intensity. It lingers longer than expected. It returns even after being quickly turned away. It seeks your eyes as if pulled by an invisible force. It is in this repeated behavior, in the glance he cannot control, that hidden psychological patterns begin to reveal themselves. A married man may carefully choose safe words, avoiding anything that sounds too personal, but his eyes betray him. He watches when he thinks you will not notice. He studies small details, changes in your expression or the way you move. This is not rational but instinctive. His unconscious tells him, I need to hold on to this image. This gaze is not heavy or threatening. On the contrary, it carries admiration and vulnerability. Sometimes he may quickly look away, pretending distraction, but the eyes return almost immediately. That repetition is what creates the pattern. It is not a single coincidence. It is a behavior that repeats in different situations, making it impossible to ignore. You can also notice how his gaze changes in social settings. Surrounded by others, he tries to appear neutral. But even in a crowded room, his eyes search for yours. This constant scanning reveals a hidden desire for connection. Even while trying to remain discreet, his nervous system betrays him. Many women are taught to wait for big declarations, to rely only on what is said. Yet psychology shows us that nonverbal signals often speak louder than words. The eyes are one of the most reliable signs because they are tied to the nervous system, not to rational control. Pupils dilate when there is interest. The eyes brighten when they meet someone who stirs deep emotion. Even the rhythm of blinking changes. These are subtle cues, but they reveal truths words cannot cover. Another important clue is frequency. He might not realize it, but he looks at you many times in just a few minutes. His gaze returns again and again, almost automatically, as if confirming your presence brings him comfort. This behavior is not curiosity or politeness. It is insistent, repeated, and full of meaning. There is also the contradiction that makes this pattern even clearer. On one side, a married man may try to maintain distance to protect himself from suspicion. On the other side, his gaze refuses to obey. While his actions may pull away, his eyes pull closer. This tension between distance and closeness is often visible to anyone paying attention. Beyond attraction, there is also care revealed through the gaze. He notices if you are comfortable, if something is bothering you, if there is a small detail that needs attention. This level of awareness goes beyond physical desire. It shows a deeper interest, a kind of hidden affection that does not need words. To many, these looks may seem like coincidence, but when glances repeat, when they carry emotion and intensity, it becomes impossible to dismiss. The gaze he cannot control is the most honest expression of a feeling he cannot erase. It is the truth his lips cannot speak, but his eyes cannot hide. This is one of the first psychological patterns that reveal when a married man is truly in love. Because no matter how much he tries to bury his emotions beneath responsibility or appearances, his eyes continue to tell the story. His gaze is the confession he will never dare to speak, yet it echoes louder than any words he could choose, the subtle change in his presence. When a married man begins to fall in love, one of the first patterns you notice is how his presence changes. He may not announce it, he may not even be fully aware of it himself, but his actions start to show it. He finds reasons to be near, even when logic says he doesn't have to be. At first it may look like coincidence, but over time, the coincidences pile up. Suddenly, he is in the same room more often, walking by when you are there, offering help, with small things that do not really require help. His presence shifts from being casual to being intentional, even if he tries to disguise it. This is not the kind of presence that demands attention loudly. It is quieter, almost hidden, but consistent. It is the energy of someone who wants to be close but cannot admit it directly. And so instead of open declarations, he creates opportunities. He lingers after meetings. He shows up earlier than expected. He takes the long way just to pass by you. Each of these actions may look small on their own, but together they form a clear picture. His presence is no longer random. It has meaning now. Psychology teaches us that attraction naturally changes how people organize their behavior. Even if he doesn't plan it, his nervous system pushes him to orbit closer to you. It is not always about speaking or doing anything special. Sometimes it is simply about being there. His presence is his way of saying what his words cannot. This pattern also shows in the way he listens. He is not just physically present, he is mentally there as well. He remembers things you mentioned weeks ago, brings up small details you barely noticed you shared, and pays attention to your expressions. This level of attentiveness is not common in ordinary interactions. It is a sign that his presence is not passive. He is engaged, focused, invested. Another layer of this change is how he adjusts his schedule. Time is one of the most valuable resources, especially for a married man with responsibilities. If he starts rearranging his routine even subtly to align with yours, that is a strong indicator of deeper feelings. Maybe he suddenly has time when before he was busy. Maybe he shifts things around to ensure he crosses paths with you. These adjustments are rarely spoken aloud, but they show where his priorities are moving. There is also an emotional presence that becomes hard to ignore. Even when he tries to appear distant, his energy fills the space. You notice his mood shift when you enter the room. He becomes more alert, more alive, as if your presence triggers something within him. This is not about dramatic gestures. It is about a subtle but undeniable change in atmosphere whenever he is around. The challenge is that this presence is not always steady. Sometimes he will pull back suddenly, trying to correct himself, afraid of being too obvious. That push and pull can be confusing. One day he is around constantly, the next day he avoids eye contact. But even in avoidance, his absence feels deliberate. The effort to withdraw only highlights the truth. He is fighting against his own desire to be near. Women are often told to look for words, for big declarations of love. But real psychology shows us that presence is one of the strongest indicators of affection. You cannot fake consistency. You cannot fake the natural pull that makes someone find excuses to be around you again and again. His presence becomes the silent confession he cannot make aloud. This pattern, though subtle, is powerful. It is not about grand romantic gestures or dramatic moments. It is about repetition, about the way he quietly rearranges his world just to exist closer to yours. And while he may try to hide it, his presence speaks louder than any words he could ever dare to say. To truly understand these hidden patterns in love and relationships, you can explore the Jung method. It's a simple way to see the psychology behind desire more clearly, and the link is pinned in the first comment. The conversations that never end. One of the clearest hidden patterns that reveals true feelings is the way conversations unfold. With most people, small talk ends quickly. Words serve a practical purpose, and then the dialogue fades. But when a married man is truly in love, conversations take on a different rhythm. What should be short exchanges turn into something longer, more layered, and filled with subtle depth. He may start with a simple comment, something about work, the weather, or daily life, yet he finds ways to stretch it, to add details, to keep the moment alive. Instead of ending the interaction, he redirects it. He asks questions that are not necessary but show curiosity. He shares stories that have little relevance except that they give him another reason to keep speaking with you. These are not random habits. They are unconscious strategies to prolong connection. Psychology explains that when someone feels drawn to another, their brain releases chemicals that make the interaction feel rewarding. This is why conversations with someone you truly care about never feel like a waste of time. They give a sense of comfort, stimulation, and even relief. For a married man, these moments may be the only safe way to express the emotions he cannot declare openly. Words become a bridge, even when the subject seems trivial. Over time, a pattern emerges. He lingers after meetings, keeping you engaged, in discussions that drift from practical topics into personal ones. He may tell stories from his past, reveal memories, or ask about your experiences. The conversation becomes less about information and more about presence. He is not trying to pass time. He is trying to hold on to the feeling of being with you. Another sign is the way he listens during these extended conversations. He is not distracted, checking his phone, or rushing to move on. Instead, he leans in. He remembers details you mentioned long before. He circles back to things you thought were forgotten. This level of attention shows that he values not just the words, but the person speaking them. His mind is marking the moments, recording them as if they mattered more than routine interactions. The flow of conversation also reveals vulnerability. A married man protecting himself might keep things surface level, polite, but shallow. But when he is truly moved, he lets his guard down. He shares feelings he would not reveal to others. Maybe he admits doubts, frustrations, or quiet dreams. These are not the kind of things he would say casually. They slip out because the connection with you feels safe enough for honesty. And yet there is often hesitation woven into this openness. He may pause, backtrack, or laugh nervously after sharing too much. This push and pull creates tension in the dialogue. On one hand, he wants to stay guarded. On the other, he longs to be understood. This struggle adds to the sense that the conversation is not ordinary. It carries more weight than he is willing to admit. Women often underestimate these extended talks. They may see them as friendly or harmless. But the truth is that time is one of the most precious resources. If he keeps giving it away, if he chooses again and again to stretch interactions, it means something deeper. He could choose to keep things short, but he doesn't. He invests, sometimes without realizing it. Another hidden layer is the way silence appears in these conversations. Instead of rushing to fill gaps, he stays. Even pauses feel meaningful, not uncomfortable. He doesn't want to walk away, so he allows the moment to breathe. This kind of silence is a sign of comfort and connection. It says, I am here and I don't need to escape. Over time, these never-ending conversations become a pattern you can't ignore. They are not accidents. They are signs of a heart that wants more than it can admit. And while he may never put it into words directly, his choice to keep talking, to keep weaving his life into yours through dialogue, is already a confession. This is the psychology of love hidden in plain sight, not in declarations, but in the way he cannot bring himself to say goodbye. The conversation stretches, circles, and continues because it is not about the words at all. It is about the feeling, and the feeling is stronger than his will to let go. The conflict between closeness and distance. When a married man is truly in love, one of the strongest psychological patterns you will notice is his constant dance between coming close and pulling away. It is not random and it is not a game. It is the natural reflection of his inner battle. a heart that longs to be near colliding with a mind that insists on restraint. This tension is one of the clearest signs of feelings too powerful to hide. At times, he will lean toward you, physically and emotionally. He may step into your space, engage with warmth, let his guard fall. In those moments, his presence feels undeniable. You sense his comfort, his desire to connect, his longing to forget the barriers that separate you. His words may soften, his tone may carry warmth, his gestures may linger longer than they should. In that closeness, there is no doubt about what he feels. But almost as soon as it appears, the closeness breaks. He takes a step back, changes the subject, avoids eye contact, or excuses himself abruptly. What felt natural a moment ago suddenly feels interrupted. It is as though a voice inside him screamed, "Too much, pull away." That retreat can feel confusing, even painful, but it is not indifference. It is fear, obligation, and the heavy awareness of his situation pulling him back. This cycle of advance and retreat repeats again and again. And with each repetition, it becomes a recognizable pattern. It is not the behavior of someone who is uninterested. It is the struggle of someone torn between two worlds, one of duty and one of desire. The intensity of his closeness, followed by the sharpness of his withdrawal, is itself the evidence of love that cannot be expressed freely. Psychologists often describe this as a state of cognitive dissonance. His feelings and his responsibilities cannot coexist peacefully, so his behavior swings between them. When his heart wins, he comes close. When his rational mind regains control, he creates distance. This conflict plays out not just in physical space, but in his emotional openness as well. He may reveal something deeply personal, only to quickly cover it up with humor or change the topic. That quick correction is a sign of the push and pull inside him. For the woman experiencing this, the pattern can feel disorienting. You may wonder why he seems so drawn to you one moment, and so distant the next. The truth is that both behaviors are genuine. The closeness is real, driven by emotions he cannot deny. The distance is also real, driven by the fear of consequences he cannot escape. Together, they form the rhythm of his hidden love story. This conflict also shows in the timing of his communication. He may reach out unexpectedly, full of energy, eager to connect. And then, just as suddenly, he goes silent. The silence is not rejection. It is retreat. It is the attempt to restore balance, to remind himself of boundaries. But the cycle repeats because the pull toward you is stronger than the discipline he tries to enforce. Another sign is in his body language. When he is close, his posture relaxes, his shoulders open, he leans in as if drawn by gravity. When he pulls away, his body stiffens, arms cross, eyes avert. This shift is not subtle. It is the physical display of the war inside him. He wants both safety and connection, and he cannot fully achieve either. Many women interpret the retreat as lack of care. But the deeper truth is the opposite. If he felt nothing, he would not struggle. If you were just another person in his life, he would remain consistent, neutral, balanced. It is precisely because the feelings are so strong that he swings between extremes. The conflict between closeness and distance is exhausting for him, but revealing for you. It shows that his emotions are not casual, not fleeting. They are powerful, enough to challenge the structure of his life. And while he may never put them into words, the pattern of moving toward you and then away from you is the unspoken confession of a love he cannot erase, the hidden care in small gestures. Grand declarations are rare when a married man is hiding his feelings. He will not stand in front of you and speak openly of love. But psychology teaches us that genuine affection leaks through in smaller, quieter ways. When words are too dangerous, actions take their place. And often, the strongest sign of love is not found in what is loudly expressed, but in the care hidden inside everyday gestures. These gestures may seem ordinary to an outsider. He remembers a detail you mentioned weeks ago, like your favorite drink or a task you needed to complete. He notices small changes, a different tone in your voice, a tired look in your eyes, a subtle shift in your mood. Without being asked, he responds. Maybe he offers help. Maybe he gives encouragement. Maybe he simply acknowledges what others overlook. These moments look small, but they carry deep meaning. A man in love cannot help but pay attention. His mind keeps track of things about you that he would not store for anyone else. This memory is not effortful. It comes naturally because you matter. His brain attaches importance to your world, and so he notices details he should not notice if you were just another person in his life. That awareness becomes the foundation of his small, consistent acts of care. One of the clearest examples is how he anticipates needs. Before you even ask, he is there with the answer. If something heavy needs to be carried, he appears. If a task feels overwhelming, he offers support. These are not random coincidences. They are signals of where his energy is directed. He may not be able to give you open declarations, but his actions whisper what his words cannot. Another form of hidden care is how he protects your comfort. Maybe he makes sure you have a seat, adjusts a space so you feel at ease, or checks if you are okay without making it obvious. He may disguise these gestures as politeness, but their frequency gives them away. He cannot stop himself from looking after you. That protective instinct is rooted in emotion, not just courtesy. This pattern also shows in the way he shares. He may bring you something small, a snack, a piece of information, a book recommendation. These gestures may seem casual, but the intention is not casual at all. Sharing is a way of creating a bond, a subtle gift that says, "I thought of you." It is not the size of the gift that matters. It is the meaning behind the choice to give. Small gestures also reveal themselves in how he reacts to your struggles. If you mention something difficult, his response is stronger than expected. He feels it with you. His concern shows in his eyes, his tone, his questions. He may not be able to solve the problem, but his empathy shows through. That emotional resonance is not practiced. It is real. His heart is tied to your well-being, even if he hides it under the surface. Psychology highlights that consistency is key. One gesture can be explained away as kindness, but when the gestures repeat when the pattern is clear, it points to something deeper. A married man who feels nothing will remain polite, balanced, neutral. A married man in love will show repeated care, even if subtle, because he cannot stop himself. His affection flows into action. To you, these gestures may feel both comforting and confusing. Comforting, because they show that you are seen and valued. Confusing, because they are quiet, almost secretive, and rarely admitted out loud. But that is precisely what makes them powerful. They are not about performance or appearances. They are born from genuine feeling, hidden behind the veil of everyday life. In truth, these small gestures are his way of protecting both you and himself. He gives what he can without crossing the line too openly. He reveals love in ways that seem safe while keeping the bigger truth hidden. But to anyone paying attention, the meaning is undeniable. His care is not accidental. It is intentional, repeated, and heartfelt. The hidden care in small gestures is one of the strongest patterns of love, because it bypasses words entirely. It shows where his heart truly lies. And while he may never confess directly, his actions speak with quiet certainty. You matter to him more than he can say. The vulnerability that slips through. For most married men, control is everything. They learn to manage their words, to present a steady image, to protect themselves from suspicion. But when real love enters the picture, cracks begin to appear. No matter how hard he tries to hold his composure, small moments of vulnerability slip through. And these moments, though brief, reveal more than any carefully chosen phrase. Vulnerability shows in his voice, a sudden change of tone, softer than usual, or a nervous tremor he didn't expect. He may start to say something and then pause, caught between the desire to share and the fear of exposure. That hesitation is not weakness. It is the weight of his emotions pressing against the mask he tries to wear. Sometimes vulnerability comes in laughter. Not the casual laugh shared in social circles, but the kind that escapes unexpectedly, raw and unguarded. It may happen when you say something simple, yet it touches him in a deeper way. That laughter is not just amusement. It is relief, connection, even a confession he cannot put into words. At other times, you may catch it in silence. He begins to speak, but then stops. His eyes lower, his expression softens, and for a moment he seems exposed. That pause is not emptiness. It is a space where his defenses collapse. In that silence, you see the truth. He feels more than he dares to admit. Body language reveals this vulnerability as well. His hands may fidget, his posture may shift, his breathing may quicken. These are not rehearsed actions. They are involuntary, signals from his nervous system. The closer he feels, the harder it becomes to keep everything under control. His body betrays him, showing the emotional storm inside. Another powerful sign of vulnerability is the way he reacts when you are upset. A man with no feelings might offer polite sympathy, but a man in love feels your pain as his own. His face changes, his concern is immediate, his questions carry urgency. He may not always know what to say, but the emotion is clear. He cannot stand to see you hurt. That empathy is a window into his hidden heart. Vulnerability also appears in what he shares about himself. A married man trying to keep distance will stick to safe topics, but when he opens up about fears, regrets, or dreams, he is revealing more than he intends. He may quickly try to cover it with a joke or minimize what he said, but the slip has already happened. His truth came out even for a moment. These glimpses of vulnerability can be confusing. You may wonder if they mean anything, or if they are just accidents. But psychology teaches us that accidental reveals are often the most honest. When the guard is down, the unconscious speaks, and the unconscious does not lie. The more he feels, the more these slips occur. A sigh that escapes at the end of a conversation, a look that lingers too long, a softness in his eyes that he cannot hide. Each one on its own may seem small, but together they create a pattern that is impossible to ignore. What makes these moments so significant is that they contrast with his usual behavior. Most of the time he is careful, guarded, composed. That is why the slips stand out so clearly. They are interruptions in his control, flashes of the truth breaking through the surface. To you, these moments may feel fleeting, but they matter, precisely because they are unplanned. They are not strategies, not performances. They are glimpses of the man beneath the roles and responsibilities, the man who is quietly, undeniably in love. In the end, vulnerability is the language of the heart. It is not polished or perfect. It shows up in pauses, stumbles, and cracks. And for a married man hiding powerful emotions, it is the one language he cannot fully silence. Each slip is a confession, whispered not through words, but through the raw honesty of being unable to keep the mask in place. The time he gives without realizing. Time is one of the most valuable resources a person has, especially for a married man. His schedule is already divided between responsibilities, family, and commitments. Every minute is accounted for, every hour spoken for. That is why one of the clearest hidden psychological patterns that reveals real love is the way he gives you time, often without realizing how much of it he is giving. At first, it may look like coincidence. He happens to be around when you are free, or he joins in conversations even when there is no practical reason. But slowly the pattern becomes visible. He adjusts his schedule, lingers longer than necessary, and creates small windows of time that allow him to connect with you. These moments are not random. They are signs of where his heart is pulling him. Time is not something a married man gives away lightly. If he spends it on you, it means you occupy a place in his priorities. Even when he doesn't say it, his actions reveal it. He may stay after work just to talk, walk the longer route so he can pass by you, or delay tasks simply to be in your presence. Each adjustment is a quiet confession, showing that he values the moments you share more than the routine he is supposed to follow. This gift of time is often disguised. He may explain it as convenience, coincidence, or duty. But the consistency reveals the truth. Once or twice could be chance. But when it happens again and again, the pattern becomes undeniable. He chooses, consciously or unconsciously, to give you pieces of his life that could have gone elsewhere. Another sign is how quickly he responds when you need something. A busy man usually delays or gives excuses, but a man in love finds a way to make himself available. He answers messages promptly, offers help right away, or clears space in his day for you. That responsiveness is not accidental, it is the natural priority of the heart. Psychology shows that people invest their most precious resource, time, where they feel the strongest emotional reward. Even when he doesn't admit it, his nervous system drives him to spend more hours near you because it feels meaningful. Love turns time into something flexible, something he bends to fit the connection he longs for. The way he experiences time around you also changes. Minutes stretch into hours without him noticing. What should be a short interaction becomes long because he does not want it to end. He may lose track of time altogether, caught in the flow of being with you. This is not about carelessness. It is about presence. You become the center of the moment, and everything else fades into the background. One of the most telling signs is sacrifice. Even with a full schedule, he gives up other opportunities to be near you. Maybe he skips a break, postpones a task, or sacrifices rest. To him, these choices may feel small, but they are profound. Each sacrifice of time is proof that you hold a place of importance in his heart. There is also the emotional quality of the time he gives. It is not just physical presence, it is engaged, attentive, focused. He is not looking at his watch or rushing to leave. He is fully there. That kind of presence cannot be faked. It is the presence of someone whose emotions have already chosen where they want to be. To many women, these patterns may feel subtle, almost hidden, but in reality, they are some of the strongest signals of love, because time cannot be reclaimed. Once given, it is gone. If he gives it to you again and again, it means you matter more than he dares to say. In the end, love is measured not only in words, but in investment, and the greatest investment is time. A married man may not confess his feelings openly, but the hours he quietly redirects toward you are already his confession. The time he gives without realizing is the purest evidence of where his heart truly belongs. The silence heavier than words. When people think of love, they imagine words, confessions, declarations, promises. But in truth, some of the most powerful signs of love are found in silence. For a married man, silence often carries more weight than anything he could say aloud. It is not empty. It is charged, alive, filled with emotion he cannot express. And this silence becomes one of the clearest patterns that reveal true feelings. There are different kinds of silence. There is the silence of avoidance when someone has nothing to give. But then there is the silence that is full, where presence says more than words ever could. When he sits near you without rushing to leave. When he pauses in conversation and does not try to fill the gap. When his gaze lingers. When the air feels different. When both of you know something is being spoken without sound. That silence is not absence. It is confession. Psychology explains that emotions often bypass language. The nervous system communicates in subtle cues. The rhythm of breathing, the weight of pauses, the stillness of the body. When a man is hiding powerful emotions, silence becomes the container that holds them. He cannot say the truth, but he cannot stop it from existing either. The result is a moment where everything feels louder even without words. You may notice this when conversations slow down. He does not want to end them, but he cannot continue without risk. So he lets the silence stay. Most people would rush to escape the pause, but he does not. He lingers. That lingering is his way of staying close, of holding on to the moment. In silence, he can be present without fear of saying too much. Another form of silence comes when emotions overwhelm him. He may start to speak and then stop, leaving sentences unfinished. He may sigh instead of answering. He may simply look at you, unable to put into words what he feels. Those unfinished moments are not weakness. They are the truth slipping through in the only way it can. Silence also appears in his retreat. After moments of closeness, he may pull away and fall quiet. That quietness does not mean disinterest. It means he is overwhelmed by the intensity of what he feels and is trying to regain control. The silence is not rejection. It is the evidence of a battle inside him. To many women, silence can feel confusing, even painful. You may wonder why he cannot just speak clearly, but understanding the psychology behind it changes everything. Silence is not a lack of love. It is love restrained, contained, but still alive. It is proof that words are not enough, or that words would break boundaries he cannot break. In silence, the truth exists without destroying the world around him. This kind of silence is also mutual. When you sit together and feel the weight of it, you know it is not empty. You feel the current beneath it, the unsaid truths flowing between you. No language is needed. In fact, words might ruin it. That shared silence is the space where hidden love breathes. Over time, you begin to recognize the difference between ordinary silence and this charged silence. Ordinary silence is forgettable, but this silence lingers in your memory. You recall the look in his eyes, the way the moment felt suspended, the sense that something bigger than both of you was present. That is why silence is not the absence of love. It is the place where love hides when it cannot be spoken. For a married man, silence becomes the safest language. It protects him from exposure while still allowing his emotions to live. It lets him stay connected without saying too much. And though it may seem fragile, it is one of the most honest signs of how deeply he feels. In the end, silence reveals what words cannot. It is heavy, full, undeniable. And if you pay attention, you will see that it carries more truth than any declaration ever could. And perhaps this is the final pattern that matters most. When love is real, even silence is loud. Sometimes the truth is not in what is spoken, but in what cannot be said. If you listen closely, you will find that love leaves its mark not only in actions or in words, but in the quiet spaces in between. And once you recognize it, you will never mistake silence for emptiness again.